What is going on, guys? It is Adam and Marf, and today's show is going to be packed. We're going to be talking about, of course, everything from SpaceX to China to everything that has just transpired in the last 24 hours. So stick around. This is going to be a wild one. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in the show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough. All right. What is going on? It is Adam A.K. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Thank you for tuning in. Tonight we have a ton to cover, so if you're new here, just remember everything that we're going to show you here today, including all of the pictures, videos, documents, articles, archived documents here. It will all be available on our website. Now, when you go to marfooglenews.com, not only can you sign up for alerts to know exactly when we go live and email alerts from our server, again, you can also check out the website for all of the links. We do a bibliography, so you know exactly where every story is coming from. That way you, of course, will know exactly where your news is from and what the source is. Now, when you go to Omega, the last letter, of course, it's all navigable by the thumbnail. You will see that we have all of the links for today's show. If you would like to go to a previous show, you can also use the search bar. If you remember something I said from that show up at the very top right-hand corner, you can actually search via that. Anything I say, again, will be searchable on that. So today's word, I guess you can search, is blanket tanner. Blanket tanner. So if you search that in a future show, you'll be able to find this show. Again, over here is all of the links, and then down below, once you hit that yellow bar, that is the web-only content. That is basically stuff that's too hot for TV, the stuff we can't talk about unless we want to lose the channel, or stuff that is too far to one direction to cover neutrally. There's a whole nother show down there. Dex will go over a little bit more details at the very end of the show. On the right side, if you do want to support us through NordVPN, EMP Shield, or My Patriot Supply, you can do that all over on the right side. Any of those boxes, go to our affiliate links. That helps us out and gives you a discount in almost every case. So it's a win-win for everybody. You get what you were already going to get, and you help out your favorite channel. Let's bring in my co-host / internet brother, Dex. How are you doing today, and what is going on?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
So a lot to go over today. We have NASA will move International Space Station to avoid flying junk just hours before Elon Musk's SpaceX Crew 3 launch. Now, this is still to happen, or has it already happened?
Yeah, it's they had to move it already before the launch. I think the launch was just a little while ago, and the space station needed to be moved.
So when they're talking about moving the ISS, I'm guessing that they supposedly have to, hit some rockets and set it on a different circle around Earth or on the plane of whatever it is. Again, either way, they're moving something, or they're telling us this. It says the astronauts have been cleared and prepared for the flight, according to Steve Sitch of NASA. It comes as the ISS found out that one of the 4 parachutes deployed in Crew 2's landing was a little bit slow. It says this one was a little bit slow deployed, about 75 seconds late, but again, all within the design criteria. He added, we've done an extremely thorough review. Everything looks like we're in a good place to fly tomorrow. It says one of the 3 drones used in the Crew 2 mission was beat up a little bit and will be replaced by another drone ahead of the Crew 3's launch. Crew 2 left the space station on November 8th and landed on November 9th. So again, they basically had to move, and it said that they had to move the ISS to avoid anything coming from SpaceX. One thing I think about, though, is there something that we don't know about that is actually going on up there that they had to move it for? Now, they can say it's for this future launch or something else. But again, what's your theory on this one? Or we can take it at face value. Either way, that's something that I believe we're going to see a lot more. We've been covering that they say that there's going to be a lot more space junk, and that right now it looks like a Texas-sized piece of junk out there as far as all of the garbage that is supposedly out there. And then it says NASA pushes back time frame for human moon mission to 2025. Dex, why do you think everything is around 2024 and 2025? Why do you think that they moved this back?
Well, yeah, I mean, they've only moved it back 1 year. That's good, I guess. At least they didn't come in and say we're moving it back 10 years. At least, if you're, for those that are, ambitious and want to see this potential launch to the moon. But it is kind of interesting, though, that they did, push it back. So I don't understand necessarily if we're just not capable of doing it as fast as we thought. And of course, it was a previous administration that had set that date. And now I think this administration at NASA may want to make a different date.
And the other thing I don't get is, why wouldn't they wait to push this back until 2023? Why are they even doing that? Is it maybe it's due to budget? Because why even tell us that they need to do this? Why won't they wait and see if they have to later? Why are they telling us in 2021? Is there something that will affect this? Is there something that's coming up that will affect everything that's happening here? I don't know. It says T-Man's administration had set the aggressive goal of returning humans to the lunar surface by 2024, an initiative named Artemis, intended as a stepping stone toward the even more ambitious objective of sending astronauts to Mars. Now, there's much debate, of course, down below in the chat and probably all over the place right now as far as, what are they really doing up there, as far as will they actually get to the moon? There is a large chunk of people who believe that, we actually never went in the first place. And there's reasons behind that. There's some things that really kind of don't add up as far as the video that they made and how many times they went and why we didn't go after our technology just absolutely, doubled, tripled, and quadrupled and times by 1,000. We're talking about the moon landing vehicle. They say that the computer that was on board the moon landing vehicle was the equivalent of what today we have at Hallmark in the card aisle. In fact, when you open up one of those little tiny cards with a little tiny chip that plays a musical song or says happy birthday or does a funny voice, they say that the chip in that little card is as powerful as the computer that landed on the moon. That's literally, that's kind of a crazy thing to think of. And then when you think about all of the moon missions that they supposedly did, and then, of course, some people say that the Van Allen belt and all of this, but why did we stop going in the first place? And if they knew back then, there's ancient documentaries saying that there was money up there to be made and that there were things worth money on the moon. There were obviously, why didn't they do that? Was it just because there were no private companies doing this? But again, SpaceX isn't completely private because they're contracted with them now, and T-Man was the one who set that goal. And now they were trying to get, all of these different companies to do it for them. So it's kind of weird. It says we lost nearly 7 months in litigation, and that likely has pushed the first human landing likely to be no earlier than 2025, Nelson told a news conference. We are estimating no earlier than 2025 for Artemis 3, which would be the human lander on the first demonstration landing. It says a federal judge last Thursday rejected a lawsuit by Jeff Bezos' space company, Blue Origin, against the U.S. government, challenging NASA's decision to award the $2.9 billion lunar lander contract to rival billionaire Elon Musk. So that's been a battle that we've seen. I don't know what their deal is, but they say that Jeff Bezos, on average, every 16 days, tried to basically snitch on Elon or report him or file a complaint against Elon's SpaceX. So that kind of, a lot of people, when they saw that, went crazy on Twitter and said he's kind of being a sore loser. He lost the contract and he just kept filing these complaints saying that everything was wrong, and he was really pissed off that he didn't get it. They were also trying to ask for them to also give them one. I don't know what to think. Here's the thing. I've never been to space, and I know that I believe everyone in this audience has not been either. When I will truly know exactly what the truth is when I fly up in something and see space for myself. And from what they're saying now is that will happen in our near future. Or something huge happens that stops all of humanity from going any further technologically, then, maybe that will happen first. I have a feeling that a lot of the things we've said in the past, if you look at everything that was said over the last 10, 15 years on the internet, almost all of this has come true. They used to look at people like they were crazy when they talked about this new way of doing things, this new world that we're in right now. And they used to say it was crazy that all of these people were just... What's weird is if you have millions and millions of people thinking one way, there's a good chance that it might be true. There's a good chance that it's not based on just complete crap, that it is based on stuff that has leaked through or, played the telephone game and got out. As far as what is happening with the world right now, a lot of people believe that, a lot of this was kind of very visible years and years and years ago. I mean, like a lot of it. So what do you think? Tell me in the comments below. As far as what is happening right now with the world, it's pretty sad. We are losing pretty much every freedom that we have or still have here in the U.S., and other countries are doing even worse than us, especially places like Australia. It says the ruling allows the National Aeronautics and Space Administration to resume its collaboration with SpaceX on the lander contract, though Nelson said that Musk's company had continued development work on its own in the meantime. Citing additional factors for the new timeline, Nelson said Congress had previously approved too little money for the program and that the T-Man's administration's target of a 2024 human landing was not grounded in technical feasibility. Also, 2024 and 2025 is where the Deagle report said that there would be this sharp decline in population. So I also kind of have that in the back of my head. And why are we trying to get to Mars? Why are we trying to get to other planets? Why are we, digging up bunkers? Why are all the elites basically trying to find a spot to go to? I don't get it. And why are all the elites, why are all the CEOs exiting their jobs? They called it the CEO exodus of 2019, and then they had another exodus in 2020. Basically, all the guys that were running these companies all left in a short amount of time. Right as CV was starting, basically all of them retired, left, easy jobs, cake jobs that they were making millions and millions of dollars in bonuses. And they, some of them were 25 years old and said, oh no, I'm good for the rest of my life. I'm not going anywhere else, even though they had huge offers. It's kind of like how Dave Chappelle turned down $50 million. Nobody understood it. Well, a lot of people didn't understand when these CEOs left and they weren't lined up with anything else. Are they spending time at home because they already made enough money and they know that we have time limited right now? Or are they taking that time to plan for future events? If you haven't watched the previous shows in the last 2 weeks, there were some pretty good ones, especially the one with William Shatner. Make sure to go look back at the thumbnails through the William Shatner one, and then the Prince William. Both of those quotes really freak me out, especially William Shatner saying on the Today Show that, basically talking about a future catastrophic event, a specific one. He's talking about it like there is a specific catastrophic event that is going to happen. If you remember that, let other people know in the chat as they come in. Space launch startup just used a giant centrifuge to fling a projectile into the upper atmosphere. So this is pretty crazy because this is, it looks like a Beats logo or whatever, a Dr. Dre Beats logo, but this is actually a thing that spins something incredibly fast and then supposedly launches it out the tube and goes into space. Dex, when you saw this, this is kind of like Dark Ages, style.
Well, yeah. What's really cool about this is that they're basically in a vacuum, okay? And so they create this vacuum, and because they have no friction in the vacuum, they can accelerate extremely fast in the centrifuge, round and round and round and round, right? Over and over until they get a very high speed acceleration. And then they can open, basically call it a trap door for better terms, and that projectile can go shooting up the tube you see there, which will then break a barrier at the top, which is sealing the vacuum as it busts through. And all of that force it has can launch it up significantly high into the atmosphere with using very little energy or very little, not using any fuel. To be honest, there's no fuel needed to get to a certain height, and then they could add on fuel at that point.
Now, one thing I wonder about this is, was this designed in case of a massive disaster where we couldn't launch anything, where they could use this when they don't have a certain resource, or when all of our satellites get knocked down, they could launch satellites using this. That's what they say this is for launching satellites and doing it with this centrifuge, which probably would take power. But I wonder if it could take power, say, off of a generator, or, I just wonder how much power this thing actually takes, or how much compressed air, or however they do it.
Well, so the first thing that came to my mind, Adam, when I was reading this and looking at how this thing works, they're talking about moving an object up into the upper atmosphere in basically milliseconds. It happens really fast because of the acceleration, right? Well, imagine if this thing was turned sideways, right? How far could a projectile be shot across, on a trajectory, on an angle across? And so take space out of the equation for right now and turn this type of device over to the military. And what could they use it for?
And could you make it smaller?
Right. Well, that or not, make it bigger, because they want to launch large things across the globe in a very fast time.
That would be a trip. So like launch a cylinder type, say, glider or something where the wings pop out. I bet we will see that with this. As far as the size of it, you can see kind of the scale. These are tiny cars. This thing is giant. It's kind of blocked by this.
This is giant, but this is not even the full size. They want to get to something bigger because they want to launch large cargo rockets and other things that have fuel on them. From the coast, like over at the different coast launch points. So they want to build a much larger version of this where they're doing it like 4 launches a day, and of course they're not using any fuel until they get to the upper atmosphere, so it saves quite a bit of money.
Well, you would think that SpaceX would have thought of something like this, and this is called spin launch, or at least that's the name they came up with it, or is that the company? Yeah, it says a U.S. space launch startup has, for the first time, demonstrated a kinetic-based system that's intended to one day put small spacecraft into orbit. The spin launch concept, which feels ripped right out of the classic age of science fiction, is based around a vacuum-sealed centrifuge that spins an unpowered projectile at several times the speed of sound before releasing it, hurling it into the upper atmosphere, and ultimately into orbit. In this way, the Long Beach, California-based company hopes to challenge traditional rockets for putting payloads into space. The first test flight of the prototype, a so-called suborbital accelerator, took place at Spaceport America in New Mexico on October 22nd, but the milestone was only announced by the company yesterday. So I wonder why they kept it kind of on the low. As far as this goes, in less than a millisecond, it would be shot into space. That's a pretty big trip there, and I just wonder why they didn't think of this kind of thing earlier. Maybe just because now they have the technology, or what? Mr. Jingles Dice says, stay golden, Pony Boy. Help out a fellow fan member and look me up on Facebook. I don't have a personal Facebook, actually. We don't even have one for the show anymore. But again, for anybody that is over on Facebook, go check them out. AWR, thank you so much for your support. And then Tim, thank you for subscribing. Over on DLive, we have a lot of people that just popped in. Thank you. Whoa, Texas Rob, 49. Says, this is for all the live shows I missed. Much love and thank you, Adam, Dex, and Mods. Texas Rob just did a ninja, the highest compliment you can bestow on someone on DLive. Texas Rob, you know you don't have to do that. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you here. Again, thank you for going above and beyond. And then Pearl says, much love to all. Lisa K23, hi. Dogs just woke me up. Glad to see Marf and Dex. Meatbubba 007. We've got Renegade PD, Jaybird 42, Bear Lover 92,000. Oh Firefighter. Karen from Columbus is in there. Scrapulicious. All sorts of great people. And then Texas Rob, I hope you watch the replay because this is later on. We've got some pretty serious stuff here. I hope you end up getting to it. Again, let's get a Texas in the chat for Texas Rob. Thank you. Wanna Be and Scrapulicious, thank you guys as well. So what do you think? Would you, I wonder if they'll ever launch a person, like a cannon launch like they used to do at the circus. And then we have AR Pioneer warns that metaverse could make reality disappear. Kind of a matrix theory here, I would assume. Dystopian prediction and innovator in early AR systems has a dire prediction. Of course, the metaverse could change the fabric of reality as we know it. What a trip. It says Louis Rosenberg, a computer science and scientist and developer of the first functional AR or augmented reality system at the Air Force Research Laboratory, penned an op-ed in the Big Think this weekend that warned that the metaverse, the immersive VR and AR world currently being developed by the company formerly known as Facebook, could create what sounds like a real-life cyberpunk dystopia. It says, I am concerned about the legitimate uses of AR by the powerful platform providers that will control the infrastructure. It says, among Rosenberg's concern is the third parties could introduce paid filter layers that allow certain users to see specific tags over real-life people. These tags might float above every person's head, for instance, and provide bits of information about them. Dex, this is actually this is really trippy. We're talking about like when they're walking in the real world and then they would see things pop up over people's heads. This is like a Black Mirror episode.
Right. Like you're walking through the grocery store and somebody down the aisle and it tells you information about them that makes you not want to go near them or makes you want to go near them. I don't know. Right. Like
a paid filter, you could see registered sex offenders, or a paid filter that could show you felons, or a paid filter that could show you, people that, have thievery charges or something. That is a real trip. Or in a positive way, somebody who is single or somebody who is taken, right, in a relationship would pop above their head. This is something that's real, and they're working on these different things. They were working on this as far back as, years ago. We saw at least 3 years ago the actual computer screen put into a contact lens. You actually had a contact lens that you could put on, and you could see information, a HUDs, a heads-up display, just like you see in video games, where it would show you different information, including the test that they used was Google Maps and Apple Maps. They were able to actually put arrows. In real life, you would see this floating arrow in front of you telling you to turn around the corner, or if you were driving, it would actually highlight. These were in the early beta tests. You say you'd be driving and you see a freeway sign. It would actually highlight that exit, and it would say, take this exit. And then you would see that little arrow that you see on your navigation, but it would be real life. It would be inside. And this was all attached wirelessly through this setup. This is something that's going to happen. And as far as augmented reality, that I see, catching on a lot faster than VR, because you're not going into something, you are adding something into real life. You are putting these filters above in real life situation. So for anybody that's not kind of familiar with this, you would see through, say if you just put on a pair of glasses and those glasses showed you a very realistic image or a holograph of something in front of you. This is where it comes into play. I was just talking to my buddy Dave about this, about how people are buying up. Dex, was it you that I was talking to about this? Where, say, on Google Maps, in the future, people will buy up those areas, like actual areas, and they'll be able to do digital advertisements in the virtual world. Is that something we were talking about? I don't know.
No, we weren't, but I've heard of this, and it totally makes sense in the way they're going with augmented reality is, just plaster over the billboards you already see with digital billboards that don't even exist, right? And not only that, they're customized to you, so that what Adam sees and what I see are probably two different ads.
So, in fact, okay, so imagine that, and this is so crazy because this is going to happen if we don't kill ourselves first, right? If the world doesn't destroy itself. We're talking about, say you're walking on a street of 10 restaurants. Well, it would have a virtual person standing out front saying, "Hey, come on in. This is rated 4 stars or 5.9 stars. Come check out our food." And then another person, this is straight out of a very dystopian movie. Another a virtual gentleman is standing in front of the other one, and there's virtual arrows pointing in. And the owner of that restaurant paid for them to have, this virtual kind of presence where it says, "Hey, eat here." So anybody wearing these AR glasses, or say the next 5 generations ahead of Ray-Bans that they've already put these cameras in and done these things to, you would see this, and you would see this augmented reality of things happening. This isn't science fiction. We're not talking about some BS here. We're talking about things that they are already preparing for. This is what Facebook is going to do. Now, the purpose, some of this is the early investors, and I don't know how you would do it, but early on, you'll want to actually buy places without physically owning. So if you have a block, you might be able to buy, say, that block on the digital world, and in the future, you would be able to rent out space for advertisements in the augmented reality. So in the real life, you take off the goggles or you take out the contact lenses, there's nothing there. But when you have these augmented reality glasses or contact lenses on, you would see the ads that were in the virtual space. Same way that right now, if you do Google, Street View, it would be like going in Street View, only you're really on the street and you're seeing the overlay. This is something that's, I'm sure a lot of people will think this is super cool, but you have to realize all of the negatives that come with this. We're talking about a future place by the time all of this happens, and it might be very shortly. We're talking about a place where they have complete control over everybody. And like they said, the World Form says that in the future, you will own nothing and be happy. Why do you think that? It's a very scary thought. It says, and they use that layer to tag individuals with bold flashing words like alcoholic or immigrant or atheist or racist, or even less charged words like Republican. He said the virtual overlays could easily be designed to amplify political division, ostracize certain groups, even drive hatred and mistrust. It says he's also concerned with the metaverse would make reality disappear by creating a system in which people can't simply step away from their devices to have real-world interactions. The idea is that the metaverse could grow to a point at which it impacts essentially every facet of our lives, and it would be near impossible for most to just walk away. That means we would all be constantly exposed to whatever false reality third parties might want to show us, since there would be an AR overlay over everything. This is extremely scary. Facebook is one of the richest companies in the world. Zuckerberg, I think, sits at number 5 richest person in the world. Think about the money that Elon Musk has and Jeff Bezos has, but directly filtered and completely focused on getting you to be in their world. That is what Zuckerberg is doing. This is going to be the future, and they know what they're doing. They're working on it. They're paying billions of dollars in research, and they're creating this new setup. And I bet you they've been working with governments, and they've been working with the world leaders and elites in spots that we don't even see. And this is the future. This sounds crazy, just like all of the stuff we talked about 10 years ago sounded crazy. But watch, it's all going to start happening. It's going to happen right in front of us. I'm just praying that that my kids and everybody else in my family is going to be okay in this new world. That's all I can ask. Go ahead.
The real kicker here is when they get it to a point that it is something you can't live without. So, for example, they were able to force this in China, right? You can't operate without a cell phone. Matter of fact, they gave everybody cell phones, but by the way, you can't pay your rent, you can't, get on the train, you can't do anything without having a cell phone. So therefore, you can't just say, you know what, I don't need this cell phone, I'm going to throw it away and never use it. You could do that, but then you're not going to be able to literally survive, at least in the cities or in the major areas, right? Maybe you can go back out to the third world parts of China and, rice fields and stuff, but you can't have the modern day. So when you think about here, we don't necessarily do that. We don't just enforce something like that, but there are certain things that over time have just been, you can't live without. Like tell somebody to live without a telephone number, right? You couldn't do it. Like it's really difficult to not have a phone number. Tell somebody to not have an email address. I know people don't like their email, but you can't even go apply for a job if you don't have an email address, right? There are certain things that eventually become so ubiquitous that you just have to have it and you can't really live without it. And that's one of the things they're going to focus hard on with building this, is to make those things so integrated that you have to have this. Otherwise, you won't be able to accomplish daily tasks.
Yeah, like you said, in China, if you want to do certain actions, you have to do it through Weibo or through WeChat or through your attached to your equivalent of a social security number to your phone. You pretty much can't get a cell phone in China without having it attached to your bloodline, to everything that is you. By the way, Bill Bradley said, there are many men richer than Zuckerberg and even Elon that they're so rich that their wealth and their names are not published. I have said that a million times. I don't believe Elon is even at $300 billion, which is an insane amount of money. Imagine that. Like, you could buy a military sub made up with a giant mega yacht with tennis courts on it, and that would be the chump change in your pocket. That's how much money that is. You literally can buy whole cities. That is more than the GDP of cities. And there are people that are richer than that. In fact, the families, as far as the Rothschilds, as far as the Morgans, and as far as all of those banking families, there are people that are much richer than that. And I believe they have so much money that they're able to, since they own everything, they don't have to publish their names. If you own the companies and own the governments that actually publish the stuff, you don't have to have your name published. So this whole, like, who the richest man in the world is, it doesn't exist because we won't ever know. I can take some guesses, but there are richer people than Elon Musk. I mean, come on. You think somebody that made a company just recently in the last 100 years that they're all of a sudden the richest man in the world? No. There are families that have ruled things behind the curtains for, hundreds of years. Actually, if you want to go down the bloodline and all the way back to the Dark Ages, there's royalty. There's this bloodline of successful people that have passed their money down, and that money has gained interest and interest and interest. Imagine having that much money sitting. By the way, Elon Musk's money, once you get to that point, it only goes up. You can't even spend money fast enough. The interest on that money is just growing and growing and growing. In fact, just the interest on probably 10% of Elon's money is enough for us to be rich. Just the interest on just that sitting in the bank, not even the original amount, the interest that he would make in a month would be enough for us to be rich off of. That's what's so insane about this. 1 billion is 1,000 million. And he is up to 300 billion. That's 30. What is that? That's $300,000 million. That's 300,000 times a million. That's mind blowing. Enough to buy a New York skyscraper and destroy it for fun. Mark Sketch from Europe says, as soon as we give in to augmented reality, we lose life itself. Please, guys, don't forget to thumbs up. Hey, thank you, Mark Sketch, and I always forget to do that myself. Yeah, no, people think that this everything that is going to harm you in the future is going to be given to you as a convenience. It's going to be something that they will tell you that will help you in life, that will make things easier, that will make your life better. It's not. None of this is going to be good. It's going to be good for corporations, and it's going to be good for the richest people in the world. Randall Edge just sent you an interesting meteor video on your website. Check it out, guys. Randall, I hope it's yours. If it is, we'll show it tomorrow. And then remember, you can submit videos just like Randall. Go to marfooglenews.com/playmyvideo. The other day, I got video of something flashing across the sky. It was really bright. Dex, by the way, you saw that. I sent it to you. I need to I need to blur out some stuff because I don't want to show my stuff. But again, it was a huge flash, and people on Twitter said, "Oh no, that was SpaceX." Unfortunately, it was at 10:15 Pacific. That was 3 hours after the launch of SpaceX. So apparently it's around 7:30 is when people saw the SpaceX.
Are you talking about the return of SpaceX?
Yes, it was a return, yeah. And people, pretty much everybody goes, no, Matt, you saw SpaceX. That was 3 hours after. So I still don't have an explanation of what that was. It was at 10:15 p.m. Pacific. It's over on my Twitter as far as the exact time. But it was huge. It just lit up the whole sky. It was cloudy, but it was like something out of a movie. I saw blue go all the way across, and it wasn't lightning. There was no thunder, no nothing. This was a direct line. It was a straight line, and it was big. So if anybody got video of that, or if you're in Washington and you got a clear video of the sky, say on your Ring camera or something like that, I would check 10:15 p.m. yesterday or the day before. In fact, when we move on, I'll give you the time before the end of the show, or the date and the time. I would really like people to actually go back. If you have monitoring like that, go back and check that time and see if you got the sky, because I think it was gigantic. I saw it. I mean, it was so big that I couldn't miss it. I was in the front of my truck, and the whole window just went whoosh, and I saw this just giant line. It was not SpaceX. I don't think it was. It was way bigger than anything I've ever seen. And then, yeah, as far as reality, that's just nuts. Now, if you have not already, I'm gonna again mention this right now. $50 off per device. If you haven't gone over to EMP Shield, this is an actual way to protect yourself from a future EMP or a CME. If we have a Carrington level, well, we will have a Carrington level event again. It happens on average every 150 years. It's been 160. It's overdue. That would be a natural event where it would affect our power grid, could possibly knock down our entire grid. They say if something knocked down our entire grid, up to 90% of us would perish. And that's not because we're taking each other out or anything like that. It would be because we would not have fresh water. It would because we would literally die from thirst because we would not have the resources to keep water flowing. If you have not already looked into why we have told you about EMP Shield, then I'd highly recommend going through some of the previous videos where we explained what the EMP task force is saying. Of course, what DHS, Department of Homeland Security, told us in 2018. They always give you a heads up before this stuff. They basically foretell you what is happening and what they're preparing for. And what they're preparing for is the most likely situation or something that's planned. They always give, put it under the radar and put it out. Well, it tells that every American should have 6 months to a year of food and water due to the possibility and the probability of a complete grid shutdown. And by the way, if you haven't noticed, power and everything else we're going to talk about later, there's a lot of things going on with all power grids. We're talking about Australia, UK, US, France, Europe. Everybody's having issues with their power grid right now. And we are in cycle 25, one of the most unpredictable, or at least it's predicted to be one of the most unpredictable cycles we've had. You can protect yourself against all 3 phases of an EMP with an EMP shield. Go to marfooglenews.com/EMP. This is the same company that has worked with DHS, DOD, and now is officially on the DEMSO team helping protect the Texas grid. This EMP shield was actually mentioned by name in that Department of Homeland Security that alert to Americans. So again, go over and check it out. You will get $50 off per device, and you will be helping out your favorite channel. When you end up purchasing this, not only are you getting a discount, but you are also, they will send us a commission for sending you their way. That's how the ecosystem works, and it's how we continue to grow. Again, we don't get the same treatment that other channels do. So if you're in a different niche like photography, you have no restrictions, but because they don't care if you talk about Canon or Nikon. Those aren't filter words. And you don't have to have authoritative Nikon sources. U.S. consumer prices jump 6.2% in October, the biggest inflation surge in more than 30 years. Dex, we've been talking about this, and obviously people aren't stupid. Everybody's going to the store and seeing stuff for more and more expensive. Everything has gone up, and now it's official.
Yeah, so this is coming out as a report, one of the official reports that they do from time to time. But what's interesting about this is, obviously they break down, the consumer price index is made up of a lot of different things. So they actually break down the different, categories, whether it's fuel or food prices, et cetera. But you can see how some of these percentages jump, like fuel jumped just in the month 12.3, but it's actually up 59.1% over the past year, which is a huge spike, right? And things like food have gone up 5.3. It's up a little bit, but it's gone. They're going up. But the one interesting thing I thought, and we can read through all of this and see the different stats, but the stat particularly around employment and how much money people were making, and wages, real wage after inflation actually went down. So that's kind of kind of a scary thought when you think about that, of having things cost more, but wages actually not being as effective as they were against inflation. In other words, you would like to say, well, if everything costs more, then everybody should be making more and it should all even out. And if it's not, that's sort of a scary thought to think about. Like when I go to the grocery store, I don't have as much money now to pay for everything.
Yeah, I've known plenty of friends that have gone on this roller coaster over the last 2 years, and I have one friend that has always been a successful friend, always has done a great job, has a job as a clerk for a big construction company, and they had to cut him, and then he got another job, and now he's working 3 jobs, and he's still not making it because he just can't afford it, and he's got 4 kids. He's got, the same amount of kids I do, and he's even he's working 3 jobs right now, and then his wife is disabled, so he's just got all these things piling up on him, and he just can't afford it. His kids have special eating. Some of his kids have issues with eating certain foods, so he has to go out of his way to get these more expensive kind of specialty foods. And it's not like they're trying to do it to be uppity. They're doing it because they have to, and it's a requirement. Like his one kid has certain intestinal issues and can't eat this and can't eat that, and this other kid is allergic, so he's got to go out and get these specialty foods and replacement foods, and they're more expensive. I see so many people around suffering, and things are getting so expensive here. I like this song says in the beginning, I want to move to Miami. I want to move. I cannot. The prices here are insane. My other friend cannot find a studio, just a room, for less than $2,000 a month in Seattle. He has to move all the way out to the boonies to get anything kind of less than that. Some of the rent controlled, so by the government, it's a place that's rent controlled, is $1,500. Now, when you're making $400 every 2 weeks or $500-$600 every 2 weeks, That the math doesn't work. You have to have 2 jobs. And even if you have 2 jobs and you're making $2,400 a month and $1,400 of it is going to rent, how are you going to afford car insurance, gas, everything else? And not to, forget about food, health insurance, everything else. That's why so many of us don't have health insurance and things like this. It's like you can't afford it here in Washington. It's so crazy to think that the average, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom house is upwards in the $4,000 range. Nobody can afford that. Milk, my wife, I don't know if she's in the chat right now, but the same milk that we were getting for $5.50 is now $8. $8 for a gallon of milk. Like, it's highway robbery. Everybody's noticed it here. Everybody, I see, everybody's sending me pictures of these $40 steaks, and that one woman called in last night. 6 steaks equaled over $100 for her husband's birthday, and she did it because it's her husband's birthday. It's a special event, but that's what it's going to be in the future. Simple, regular day things that we take for granted are now going to be that special thing. Like this, I feel like we're in the 1930s or in the Depression. It's like, oh, we get to eat an orange this week. It's not, it's not that bad yet, but it seems like it's getting there. Does it not? Dex, you know what I'm saying? Like a dystopian movie where you see that they're all sitting around an orange and they're chopping it up, and each person gets a quarter, and it's their treat for the month. We got to eat a quarter of an orange.
It's definitely definitely a challenging time that we're moving through, and the real question is, how bad is it going to get, right? We've gone through, when I say we, like collectively America has gone through things like the Depression, which were extremely difficult, right? And then we've gone through major recessions and major setbacks and times of high inflation, and even hyperinflation, just not as extreme as, say, Venezuela or other places that were just completely out of control. The real question is, how far is it going to go? Is it going to be so bad that, we're talking, Depression era or Venezuela style, hyperinflation, or are we just going to, go through these periods like the ebb and flow of economics over time, where we go through this rough period, this rough patch of high inflation, but then eventually things start to catch back up. Time will tell. I think everybody's got their opinions of it, and I'm sure, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I know and I have a crystal ball, but I'm sure plenty of people out there have opinions on various ways they think, what's happening with this economy, or what necessarily is going to happen, and whether it's global or whether it's, micro in the US level, or things like that, or the change of the dollar, or the reset they're trying to do, right? All these different things play into it. So we'll just have to, I think the best thing to do is try to do things that are smart for you right now, whether it's making sure you have extra food and extra water, making sure you're buying the things that you're going to need, and maybe buying a few more of them, because it's probably cheaper to buy it now than it will be to buy it later. Like, if there's something you use every month or you go through every 6 months, having a year's supply of that is probably cheaper to buy now than buying it 6 months from now or a year from now.
Well, and especially having water and extra drinks around, as far as that goes, that's all going up too. Everything is going up as far as bottled, clean, potable water. I've noticed that the prices even on water are going up. It's crazy. And then we have Maine residents brace for a power rate hike over 60%. It says Mainers are likely to see the rate they pay for home electricity increase, in some cases by a considerable amount. Imagine that, maybe possibly even doubling or almost doubling. It says the Maine Public Utilities Commission recently provided possibilities about upcoming power rates to the Maine legislature. Agency spokesperson Susan Falloon said that the final number isn't yet available. It says, however, a majority of Maine residents could see their rate go up between 60 and 80%. The Portland Press-Herald reported under expected increases, the cost of power would climb about $20 to nearly $53 per month for a typical household. Now, obviously that's for an apartment.
Not a Maine. this is not a Maine only event, right? This is just one place that started to publish it. And obviously, the further north you are, the sooner you're going to get into heating costs and heating bills that start to, or heating demand, I should say, goes up, right? So therefore, they have more insight into what's going to happen with pricing.
Well, we're seeing this.
It's not freezing down here in the south yet, so we're not really running heat. But
Well,
up north, they are.
We're seeing this in pretty much all of the Northwest. We're seeing this in Idaho. We've already seen things just like this. Now, this is one of the first people to actually publish this that's not somebody complaining about this on Twitter. Now, the people that are complaining about their price hikes on Twitter, this is kind of forcing their hand. They're coming out publicly and saying, hey, this is going to get bad. We already know that our power grid is going to have issues. In fact, we've had main CEOs of some of the biggest power companies in the world saying that their big concern is that there will be mass unrest due to power. As far as what was his? Do you remember kind of how he said it? He said that there would be social unrest on the planet due to power disruptions. I mean, how clear could he get? And this is one of the CEOs of one of the largest power companies in the world. So you've got really, really clear writing on the wall that says that we need to start preparing and start, actually figuring out solutions other than depending on somebody else. We depend on power like it's just granted. We take it for granted. We just think it's always going to be there. This is not the case. People need to wake up. People need to get ready. Some of you are already taking steps to do this. I'm talking to somebody that is a family member and someone that is a lot more in the know than most people next week, and then he is going to introduce me to somebody that is really in the know. I want to update you guys on that next week, but there's nothing good coming down the pike. So people need to pay attention. It's not just going to be the prices. It might just not be there at all. It says, Rich Silkman, chief executive of Competitive Energy Services in Portland, said a price bump is not only possible, it's almost certain. Do you get this? So this is just in Maine. This is one of the places. This is all over the country. The price of energy has risen around the world. Just to put that part out there, risen around the world during the CV event. Natural gas prices have been especially high. So this is just one area. Survival Living, thank you for your support. Thanks again. If you guys haven't checked out Survival Living, make sure to go do so. He is a qualified survivalist by now. He actually takes lessons to try to learn how to actually prepare for everything and teaches that. Bible Talk for Common People. Also check out Alaska Prepper. He's a really great guy on and off camera. Great people. Bible Talk for Common People says, since 1970s, the dollar has lost 98% of its value. I actually didn't know that a specific stat, but I completely believe that. And then Mark Sketch, again, thank you, and thank you. And then Sunny Days. I think I missed you for some reason. So thank you so much for your support. Massive support over there. Sunny Days. I appreciate you. All right. And then we have Thanksgiving disaster on the horizon. This is a pretty big one. It says Thanksgiving, perhaps even more than the 4th of July, is going to be the quintessential American celebration. Modern codification came to us as a fixed date. It says, thanks to Franklin Roosevelt in 1939 during the Great Depression, families struggling during our national nightmare had one day to feast and appreciate that. Even during the darkest times, Americans had far more to be grateful for than not. This Thanksgiving, we hearken back to those difficult economic days. Policy failures will be responsible for tens of thousands of families getting stranded at airports, paying exorbitant gas prices, and encountering grocery store shortages. Americans face the most expensive Thanksgiving on record. So just think about that as far as the travel. Some people might not even be able to travel depending on which airline they're going with. Some people may not be able to afford to travel. Some people may not be able to afford to have the dinner because turkeys are said to be the craziest price ever this year out of anything. Not to mention the 50 other things that you usually serve on Thanksgiving is going to be more expensive. And then, of course, as far as all of the groceries that are attached with that, as far as having family come in, as far as gas prices, if family drives from out of state or if drives from the other side of the state, this has now become twice as much money just to go across state.
So just set aside the costs, right? This high cost. There's actually this convergence that's about to happen literally days before Thanksgiving. And when it comes to travel. And so when we saw what happened with Southwest, we saw what happened with American Airlines and these others that had to implement certain things that caused, potentially is what we think, but they never would admit it, caused a lot of staffing shortages, right? Well, there's a federal thing that's happening for the federal employees, and that would include TSA and lots of other airport officials, that is going into place on the 22nd. Right before Thanksgiving. So if it's the busiest travel week for the airlines and families everywhere are trying to travel, and a large percentage of people are going to be affected by the ability for those groups to actually perform their jobs because they're probably not going to be there. This is like a major, bottleneck waiting, that's probably just going to be, we're probably going to hear some crazy travel horror stories coming up for the Thanksgiving week. And I imagine there's probably a lot of people that are going to say, I'm getting in the car and driving an extra, 12, 15, 24 hours as opposed to getting into an airplane.
And we were continuing to see all of the results from this. And we called this years ago as far as all of these shortages coming down the pike. This is something, though, that is actually forced and something that could be avoided if they could just say, hey, you have another year, or you have this or that or whatever. I don't understand how this is even working. This is actually going to crumple the economy. Somebody said yesterday that to do a reset, you have to shut down completely. You basically have to tank stuff to bring it back up. What I'm more afraid of is who's going to be in charge of it all when it does boot back up. When this computer resets, who's going to be in front of the monitor? April Sheldon, thank you for your support. As far as the cancellations, a lot of these companies are, I'll just say it, they're lying and saying that it's not what it is when we all know what it is. And it's crazy to me that people believe what these things say. Like, when Southwest, my aunt was on Southwest and she got transferred to not one, not two, not three, but 4 planes. She spent an entire day at Las Vegas going from one plane to the next, to the next, to the next. She spent 12 hours on the tarmac in 4 different planes. So they would sit she said the longest that she spent was 8 hours on a plane on the tarmac, not moving. And then they said, oh, there's maintenance issues. We have to go to a different plane. No, it's not. It's because their pilot didn't show up because he didn't want to do whatever the thing was that they wanted him to do. It's not maintenance. Okay, so that should be newsworthy. I told my aunt, you need to go to local news, because guess what? If they say that 4 planes are not flyable because of maintenance at Southwest, somebody needs to go check Southwest. Hello? That's horrible. Are you saying all of your planes are going to crash and burn, or that nobody's doing maintenance on them? That's another thing, too. The actual amount of maintenance people that are probably not there. Is flying even going to be safe in the future if we don't have qualified people checking the planes? Sorry, I'm not flying anywhere for Thanksgiving. Now, Dex, are you flying in the next few months at all?
Negative. No.
I don't fly.
I'm staying on the ground. No, I'm not flying either.
Refuse. I haven't flown anywhere on a plane in I want to say 20 years. I think I was 15. Yeah. I flew on a couple of the small planes, from Seattle to Orcas Island, the little Cessnas, but yeah, no, I haven't been on a big plane for 20 years. That's crazy. And the last one I was on, we got stuck in the Las Vegas airport out of all of them for 12 hours or something, and it was a horrible experience. So I can't imagine what it's like now. God, 12 hours in the Las Vegas airport, the actual airport, trying to sleep in the middle of the night with a million slot machines going off was the worst experience ever. So I can't imagine what it's like now. It says, basically 60% of the staff has the thing. After November 22nd, we're going to see all sorts of things happen. That's the federal day where everybody has to have it. And they are giving them a very short window before they start punishment, fines, everything else. How they're doing it, I have no idea. Delaware Sasquatch says it is now being reported that 60% of the turkey supply is gone. Prep for Thanksgiving this weekend. Do not wait until last minute. Foogle fam. Delaware Sasquatch, I agree with you. I told people a week ago, if they can, if you see a turkey, grab it. Don't grab 10 turkeys to screw everybody else over, but grab a turkey and hold on to it until Thanksgiving. There's not going to be, this is going to be a crazy year because I could even foresee people selling turkeys on eBay. I don't know if that happens regularly, but I could see it happening. U.S. food banks struggle to feed hungry amid surging prices. I bet you that a lot of stores are trying to not throw away anything. Even if it's dated, they're probably trying to sell it, especially with the shortages that are happening right now. That also means that the poor and needy are going to be, shorted. I highly recommend, if you haven't already, I know that myself and others and my sister, we're going to go out and try to do some stuff for the homeless. We did not do as much as we wanted to last year. But if you wanted to do something and possibly organize something for your state, please send us an email. Tell us what you're going to do. Again, I'd love to see everybody kind of go out and try to help. It says out of Oakland, California, U.S. food banks are already dealing with increased demand from families sidelined by the pandemic, now face a new challenge: surging food prices and supply chain issues walloping the nation. And again, this actually affects all of the food banks as well. This means a lot of the stuff that they would throw out 3 days before it's expired or at the day it's expired, a lot of these stores are actually trying to hold on to it as long as they could. I even heard from my friend who is a manager at a Safeway at a branch, and she said that she's never seen anything like this. They just don't have things for entire weeks at a time. Lunchables and things like this that, kids eat, they're just not there. And because of the plastics and the things that they use to put the food in aren't being made or aren't getting shipped from China or wherever they're made. They're seeing the weirdest shortages at all these grocery stores. In fact, I would almost love for her to come on and talk about some of the weird things that they're experiencing that they're not getting. They're the oddest things. But this really sucks for anyone who is really down and out. This is a really horrible thing, and I hope that I hope that we, my wife and I and my sister, we can make a tiny impact here. But really, it's going to take a lot more of us to do this. And there's, I just know that there's a lot of people that are suffering and a lot of people that are in pain right now. So I'm hoping that we can help some, and I'm hoping that everybody here in the Foogle fam does as well. It says the higher cost and limited availability means some families may get smaller servings or substitutions for staples such as peanut butter, which costs nearly double what it did a year ago. As holidays approach, some food banks worry that they won't have enough stuffing and cranberry sauce for the Thanksgiving and Christmas. It says, what happens when food prices go up and food insecurity for those who are experiencing it as it just gets worse? Said Katie Fitzgerald, Chief Operating Officer of Feeding America, a nonprofit organization that coordinates the efforts of more than 200 food banks across the country. It says food banks that expanded to meet unprecedented demand brought on by the pandemic won't be able to absorb forever food costs that are 2 to 3 times what they used to be. So these same foods that they were actually purchasing at a reduced amount or they were getting federal funding for, now these foods are two times as much, 3 times as much, 4 times as much. You're also going to see, if you do use the food bank, and I know we've got people here, I lived off the food bank. My mother lived off the food bank. I had to go several times in my 20s when I was on my own. You will see the food change and probably get to the point where it's stuff. What really sucks is it might be food that they won't be able to cook if they're homeless. So that's, I think about that too, if you don't have a way to cook it. I thought about even those very cheap, they plug onto a propane tank. You can get the $5 propane tanks, and then they have this very cheap screw-on thing that goes on the top, and it acts as a stove. I wondered if that would be something that would be useful for the homeless, because they might have to cook a very, they won't have the food that's, something easier to make. It says that supply chain disruptions, lower inventory, and labor shortages have all contributed to increased costs for charities on which tens of millions of people in the U.S. rely on for nutrition. Donated food is more expensive to move because transportation costs are up, and bottlenecks at the factories and ports make it difficult to get goods of all kinds. So not only the actual food itself, it's getting it somewhere. They're going to have to pay for whatever drivers are left, and then they're paying these exorbitant prices. So it's not good. This whole Christmas season, this whole Thanksgiving, I'm just asking everybody in the Foogle fam, if you have the ability to do so, go out and help, and just go to do it. Because there's going to be people that are in your neighborhood. There's going to be neighbors. My neighbor at the beginning of CV brought over food. They at the time got laid off. All of them got laid off. They were all working. They live 6 to a house, and they all were working at a restaurant, and they all got laid off. They were getting zero stuff. They actually thought more about us because we had small children and our baby and our 2-year-old. They came over without us asking and brought us boxes of food. We, of course, passed those on to other people, the stuff that we didn't need. We actually did need some of the stuff because everything was out and everything was empty shelves. There were things that we forgot, and they actually gave us. So that if there's more people like them out there, I think that most people will get through this Christmas season, a lot better. So I think that if all of us, we can all make a huge difference. If every single person that watches the show, the 40, 50,000 people a day, did something, even a tiny thing, imagine the impact we could have. Especially, the people all over the world watch this show. Dex, I know that you like doing stuff for your community as well. I'm hoping we can try to figure out something that we can do before Christmas, and Thanksgiving is going to be rough.
Yeah, we always do Toys for Tots drive with the Marines.
So I wish we had like a home base where we could do stuff. It would be really cool. And then we have a homeless leader was served gold fleckled steak. The video of it has vanished. So do you want to explain this? And
so this is the kind of the irony is that the type of leader this is, right, was seen in London going to, I guess, what's his name? Salt Bay. Do you know him? He's the famous restaurant social media guy who, throws the salt on the food at the end. He's always got those silly John Lennon looking glasses on. But yeah, he was there and he was eating 24 karat gold steak. And that's just sort of like in the face of the world, as the world is going to the grocery store and now buying, or not being able to afford to buy steak anymore. Yet this leader is eating 24 karat gold covered steak. That's what I thought when I read this. I just thought it was absolutely out of place.
Oh my gosh!
And out of touch.
Is this the guy? Sorry. It just, I mean, this looks so. Maybe is this what got him famous? Is this?
Yeah, that's Salt Bay. He does like I've seen like every now and then it'll show up in YouTube like somebody's doing they in a short or something. They're in his restaurant and he's chopping the meat up with the fancy knife and he sprinkles the salt on with that silly hand thing. And yeah, that's what got him famous, I guess. I guess he's probably got a world-renowned restaurant now too. So I imagine his food tastes good and people wouldn't be raving about it. But
he's
yeah.
like the Johnny Depp of the restaurant world here.
Exactly. Kind of silly, I think, but it is what it is.
Well, to be famous for your little thing, that's funny. Well, anyways, so the guy and so wait, and this guy is serving this guy.
Yeah, he served him 24 karat gold plated gold flakes on his steak at his restaurant, and this was the leader from Vietnam, the Sea Party leader from Vietnam.
Am I wrong? But doesn't that kind of make this guy a POS? I wouldn't. I don't know. I guess maybe I don't know. Maybe he didn't know who he was or something. If he didn't know who he was, I guess. But if you did know that this guy was in charge of that group, which
you got to know he knew who he was because he's the one, not the leader, but the owner of the restaurant there, the one that posted the video of it, right? And then quickly it disappeared, so nobody knows where it is now. It's no longer there.
Yeah, because he was going to get canceled. The leader of that they did horrific things. Like we're talking about like really horrific things on both sides in Vietnam. But as far as like what they did to people and they burned people, they both sides just did horrendous things. So I just what do you guys think? Am I wrong for thinking that this kind of gross that that not only did he serve him, but posted like I served this big, kahuna of a communist leader and served him a gold fleckled steak. Meanwhile, all these other people can't even get food at the food bank. I don't know. It's just, I wonder what this, what does this guy and all these other rich people, what do they do to help the common person? Do they actually, they don't spend any time helping people. They don't volunteer any of their time. I think everybody should volunteer time doing something for somebody. I guess it's something that my mom always ingrained in us, and she was an alcoholic and had lots of problems, but she always volunteered for the church and always volunteered and always helped other people. I guess not everybody's raised like that. And then China launches new set of Yaogan Earth reconnaissance satellites. Before we talk about that, just wanted to mention real quick, if you have not already, make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get, essentially, it's a one-stop shop for everything you need as far as survival. If you do want to stock up now rather than later. I mean, it's pretty simple to see why. All the prices on everything is going up, including the packaging that a lot of these long-term survival foods come in. If they do come in this special packaging to make sure that it has a 25-year shelf life, this kind of stuff, most likely it is coming from these factories that are all raising their prices. Everything from logistics to delivery to even our USPS now changing their dates and times up because they're basically cheaping out on everything, right? So if you do want to stock up on things and you don't know where to go, this is a really great place to go to get everything you could possibly think of. They have every gadget for survival. They have, of course, power and lighting, battery banks. They have emergency radios, iodine pills. Most important, though, everyone should have water filtration. If things do go down and we have an SHTF situation, water is the first to go. Water is definitely the most important thing on that list, and then food. You can get $100 off when you use this code on a 3-month supply. Again, you can go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. But 3-month is only one of the kind of packages. You can get many of them. There's tons of different packages as far as little or more. If you can't afford this, I usually always say, like, get one thing a week, or at least, just $5 a week. Watch Alaska Prepper. His payday preps are really great. He's been doing a really good job of doing these just incredibly affordable ways to prep. Or if you just want to get it done, you can do this. But again, do that. And then for those, I actually usually say, like, you can hit up food banks, you can hit up this, but that may be getting harder to do. Make sure to be stockpiling water, do it responsibly, and then I would advise, don't make a big deal out of it either. I heard some places they don't even allow you to collect rainwater and things like this, but if you have the ability, do your research and try to get some of that started now. Teresa Wrench says, good evening, Adam, Dex, and Foogle fam. Much love to all. Prayers to all. Great show as always. Y'all are my number one news go-to. Stay strong and be safe. Teresa Wrench, thank you, and thank you for going above and beyond. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you, everybody that has continued to keep the show going. Vic Santiago, one of our oldest subscribers there, thank you. Keep up the awesome work, guys. Thank you, Vic, and nice to see you tonight. And then Winton Dupree says, Thanksgiving is a state of mind. Have your gathering and feast, whether a 20-person table, single TV tray, turkey dinner, franks and beans, give thanks. I agree with that one, and I have spent a couple Thanksgiving in my 20s just alone and depressed. But either way, I even remember I was living with another roommate, and he was alone and depressed. We sat together and we watched whatever it was back then. We watched a movie. We had like literally a TV dinner and like a pizza, a frozen pizza. And I remember it was actually one of the nicest, most peaceful Thanksgiving I ever had. And I was just thankful that I had a roof over my head and that I wasn't homeless. So there's always something to be thankful for if you try hard enough. As far as this new set of Yaogan Earth reconnaissance satellites, it says that China launched the first set of 3 satellites for a new series of classified Yaogan reconnaissance satellites on Saturday, November 5th, continuing the country's rapid rate of orbital missions. The Long March 2D lifted off at 10 p.m. Eastern local time, rising into the blue skies over the wooded hills surrounding the Xishang Satellite Launch Center in southwest China. It says that Chinese state media described the Yaogan 35A, B, and C satellites as to be used for scientific experiments, land and resources surveys, agriculture production estimates, and disaster prevention and mitigation. It is believed that Yaogan satellites are for military purposes, and this is what I said. I said that they would be launching military satellites, and that was due to the comments that we heard. We had our military group talking about this, and that how China was actively trying to build this new weird system that would track people, and it would be able to track everybody, including the people in the U.S., the same as we've been doing. I told you guys about this like a year and a half ago. Now it says it is believed that Yaogan satellites are for military purposes, similar to how Russia and the U.S. use Cosmos and USA designations respectively for military satellites, as NASA spaceflight notes. These satellites are now orbiting roughly 310 miles above the Earth with an inclination of 35 degrees, similar to many earlier Yaogan series satellites, but at a lower altitude. Unusually, the orbiting Yaogan trio were developed by separate groups. The A and B satellites were developed by the aerospace Daofang Hong Satellite Company under the China Academy of Space Technology, or CAST, while the C satellite was developed by the Shanghai Academy of Spaceflight Technology. Is it really? I think they messed up there. SAST. That's funny. They screwed up. It's SAS. It's SAST. So it's SAST. And they put the same one. It says both. Yep, I knew it. Both SAST and CAST, SAST and SAST belong to China Aerospace Science Technology Corporation, CASC. So we've got CAST, SAST, and CASC. China's main state-owned space contractor. The flight was China's 43rd orbital launch of 2021, further extending a new national record for launches in a calendar year set in October. They're massively weaponizing space right now. So Dex, I know what you were probably thinking when you saw this is they could also do. Can they do fobs with these, or do you think that that's absurd?
No, it's not. It's not absurd. I mean, that's just a trajectory that you come around from the south from an orbit where you won't be detected, and then you re-enter from there. But the other thing is with any satellite, I mean, any satellite can be turned into
a weapon,
an EMP, right? An EMP actually does go off in orbit. It doesn't have to come down. It's not like it's up in your, right above your home or above your town. It's literally up in the atmosphere, and it has to be up in the atmosphere or it won't work. It has to be very high up in the atmosphere for it to sort of ring the stratosphere and the ionosphere in the way that causes all of that to happen. So, we have no idea, and whatever they tell us, I would never believe. So we have no idea what's really up there outside of whatever, form of our own spying or intel that we can get from, other systems and instruments as to what is really up there and what it's doing.
Now, as far as the A, B, and C satellites, all these things that are launching, so you've got SpaceX launching a ton of stuff up there. You've got these things possibly launching that, by the way, another thing that this kinetic launcher could be good for, would they be able to track satellites being thrown up that way? There's no rocket fuel. There's no blast from it.
It would be a lot harder because of the fact that the initial launch is nothing but, thrust. It's not coming from an engine. It's coming from, it's pent up kinetic energy out of that launch system. So yeah, there wouldn't be anything, but I do believe it does eventually need a rocket. So it's going to get so high and then it has to kick a rocket on. But yeah, you miss out that ground launch that you would normally see that you could easily detect.
Yeah, but would
not be there.
Would they be able to detect it in the upper atmosphere, right? It eventually needs the rocket. It goes up, and then it has to do its rockets to place itself or whatever. But I just wonder if this is a stealthy way to put up satellites, especially satellites that can be weaponized. Just a thought, of course. What do you think? Put in the comments down below. If you have not subscribed already, if you're watching this far into the show and you haven't done that, make sure to hit that button and make sure to subscribe to our other sister channel. If you're new here, like we have a few other people here, new people, there's a Steven that just joined, BTTT, Lisa, and L Wants, and Vulture Dot. Thank you for subscribing. If you just subscribed or if you haven't, make sure to hit that button. Make sure to press the all notifications button on the bell. Very simple. If you find us valuable, make sure to tell somebody else about us. And then we have China.
Adam.
Yes.
Sorry, real quick. Back to the centrifuge. I would think, though, that that would be a very clever way to launch a hypersonic, in the sense that you can get it positioned quickly and use as much of that force you're building up with zero detection, and then kick in the engine that then would complete the rest of the journey at that hypersonic speed, right? And it's already got, obviously, a lot of acceleration coming off of it. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. I just thought this is not today; it's going to be tomorrow before we see these. But at the rate we're developing, things happen really fast. So,
well, if China's going that fast, I would assume we're going just as fast. We're not public about anything. They hide this, and the military's always been ahead. I think it's almost public and on purpose that we think that we are so behind. I know that we do have some tricks up our sleeves, and maybe it's on purpose that we're letting the world think that we're idiots, or maybe we're just idiots. I don't know. I know that during Obama's administration, you had them basically dismantle a lot of stuff. I mean, it just looks so kind of
well, and they always
set up.
Yeah, they always, I don't want to say exaggerate, but they always paint a picture that's appropriate for them when they're trying to raise money, military money, right? So you would never go ask for as much money as you possibly could and say, well, we don't need anything. Everything's good. The world's great. We're the best. So don't, but give us more money, right? It's a lot easier to say we need all this money because we're about to get our,
asses handed to us.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then, so China announces joint declaration with the U.S. on climate crisis.
That's a surprise, right?
Yeah, it is. So, is this something like, oh, hey, we're at peace again, or this is totally separate?
I think they just jumped in here at the last minute and said, hey, we didn't go to that, but we're definitely going to do something. So they, agreed to come to an agreement. I mean, we weren't at odds with them per se over this topic, right? I mean, sure, there's a lot of people that were, and sure, this is a very, very important topic to a lot of people at the highest levels, including our media. But ultimately, when it comes down to the tension that we have with that country, with China and the U.S., it's not necessarily this topic as much as it is Taiwan and, the South China Sea, right?
And this is just throwing this, what if all of a sudden one day they do a alert on all of our phones across the country and they say that, you need to tune in and we have our president come on and Xi come on and they say, without firing a bullet, we want you to let you know that us and China have teamed up and China is going to be in charge from now on and we're stepping down and we don't want the unnecessary loss of life and this and this and that, and we're going to give in to China. Could you guys see that happening? Would that ever? That's a crazy thought, huh? I wonder if that will be what kind of the Taiwan thing will be. Hong Kong flipped over, but do you think that would happen, or do you think not? What's weird to me is how Canada is already lining up people to go under the Chinese social credit score in their government websites. Why? Are they already like giving in to China or what? As far as this goes, yeah, I don't think that this means much of anything besides publicly. Every world government is pushing certain things, like certain things. Because through that and through the disaster that most of us won't be able to see with our own eyes. I mean, we might experience the weather wherever we are locally, and yes, it will be changing this and that, but we won't be able to see the entire world of what's going on. It will kind of be like a looming disaster over our head for a long time, right? And with disaster comes rule changes and all sorts of other things, law changes. Because, if you're saving the planet, you might have to sacrifice things like freedoms and where you live and, what state you live in and how you live in a house or maybe in a tower stacked on top of other people. Who knows? What do they call those? Oh, mega cities. And, you don't want other people from outside the mega cities coming in, so we should probably put barbed wire fence around it, facing in. There is more agreements between the U.S. and China than divergence, making it an area of huge potential for cooperation. China envoy Xi Jinping said at a news conference. The release of this joint statement shows again that cooperation is the only choice for both China and the United States. By working together, our two countries can achieve many important things that are beneficial not only to our two countries, but the world as a whole. Something is fishy with this. I'm sorry. China is not going to actually, we already know that China is not doing half of the stuff that they say they're doing. They are the manufacturers. A lot of this stuff that is happening, all of the negative pollution is coming from a lot of the factories over there. So I just think it's kind of funny. Like a lot of the places don't have regulations. Like it says, Xi did not commit China to the global methane pledge, which has been spearheaded by the U.S. and EU and obliges signatories to slash methane emissions by around a third. Nor did he commit the country to any other major international agreements, saying China wanted differentiated responsibility. However, Xi did say China intends to develop its own national plan for methane. Dex, I guess, is that cows or humans? In terms of methane, and the United States has announced a methane action plan, and China intends to develop a national plan on methane, and we will also encourage the enhanced cooperation regarding methane measurements and mitigation. So they want to get rid of carbon dioxide and methane. So basically a human that's breathing and farting. I mean cow.
There was a rumor going around, or I should say it wasn't a rumor. It was a published number that was going around. And this is, before I say it, I want to make sure it's really clear. This is not true. But it was used as an example, and that's why everybody thought it was true. That in this new type of system they're trying to put in place for this topic, climate, or specifically around methane, that they were going to tax a beef cow, like $3,500, and a milk cow like $4,500 each. Or I may have those backwards, but it was, this exorbitant amount of tax on each one of these animals, which would just be astronomically ridiculous, right? It would, instantly create a huge spike in prices and everything. But where it had, so just so people know where it had come from, is they were using the calculation on how they were trying to tax other methane sources and saying, if that same calculation were to be applied to animals, in other words, they're going to do it to this one thing, so we would expect them to do it to the other, then it would turn into a tax of this amount. So there was a lot of confusion over it, but it's still just an interesting exercise when you think about that notion of trying to tax things like methane and how they would do it and how they would go about it.
Well, they'll definitely get rid of some things that emit methane and carbon dioxide, I'm sure. And then this is a big deal. So I hope everybody piles in. I hope many of the people that are kind of half tuning in, half not, I hope you drop in right now, because this is huge. Pay attention. There's been events prior, and there will be events post this event. There was a certain event that had a very eerily similar result that happened afterwards. That was put on by the Gates and things like that. Israel is to hold 19 war games on Thursday. It said that will hold a national exercise on Thursday to evaluate how prepared the country is for the next outbreak, the Prime Minister's officer said. It says the exercise, which the PMO said will be held in the format of a game, has been named the Omega exercise. Now, I just want to show you this. Let's go to DuckDuckGo. And I again, so let's see. Omega definition. Just wanted to show you this real quick. The 24th letter of the Greek alphabet, the last of a series, the end. In cosmology theory, the ratio of average density of matter in the universe to its critical destiny. I want you to point out the alpha is first letter, omega, last letter, the 24th letter of the Greek alphabet. Because in the Greek alphabet, omega is the last letter. It is the end. It is finish, the finale. Okay? The last of a series, the end. They are saying that this is a new, that this is a hypothetical new strain. It says that Prime Minister Naftali Bennett has regularly referred to the Omega strain. The next CV that has not yet been discovered. Okay? This is just some freaky stuff. It says the state of is in excellent shape. We have beat the fourth wave, and we are on the verge of leaving the Delta behind, the Prime Minister said. At the same time, we are always looking to the future. Although the Health Ministry reported only 475 new of 19 on Wednesday, and serious patients have hit under 150, health experts have said that another wave could surface sometime in the winter. Are you kidding me? Wake up, people. This is like close. This is closer than ever before. Everybody talks about the dark winter, right? Health experts have said that another wave could surface sometime in the winter. IS has opened up about individual tourists and is rolling out an outline for visitors who have had only 2 of the, which also could lead to new V entering the country. So it's like, oh, because they've had those 2, that could actually lead to new worse ones. The exercise will include, I just wonder too, by the way, when people travel around, if you have 2 different versions of the thing and you have those people travel to this area and then they get this version and then they mix it with that version, like what if they're all on their own, okay, but then when they mix, all of a sudden you have a super thing that just whoosh, wipes everything out. It says the exercise will include representation from senior level officials and teams from across government ministries and sectors. It will evaluate preparedness in the health, legal, economic, internal security, travel, and communication realms, and will look at specific policies for how to handle gatherings, quarantine, events, tourism, and more. The PMO said the exercise will be led by Defense Commissioner Brigadier General Moshe Edrei and held at the National Management Center in Jerusalem. It said it will be attended by directors of government ministries and representative of professional bodies, including top health ministry officials and representative of the National Security Council, the IDF, and the Homefront Command. Well, in some places in the world, the CV situation is deteriorating. Is safe and secure. Bennett said, to maintain this and continue our daily routines, we must keep our finger on the pulse and prepare for any scenario. Think about all the other things we found out this year. Think about all the other things that we've been told. A DoD employee directly told me that they are preparing for bio events. Bio events. Omega, the end. The last letter in the alphabet. Z generation, the last generation. It's kind of spooky, Dex. Did you we didn't talk about this before the show. Did you look up what the Omega was?
No, I knew it, but yeah, it is certainly there's a lot of spookiness to this, even who it's coming from, who wrote it, and which country is doing it. And, you know, a lot of the ideas behind, you know, what they've done and what they do to protect themselves. You know, this should be looked at, and you should, you know, take, you know, some serious concern about, like, what are they drilling for and why, because they probably know something that we don't know.
They're preparing for a major event that is greater than what we are preparing for now. One thought I have is, what if all of this was in preparation for something that is really coming? You know, something that they do know about and they're trying to contain, or some, I don't know. The thing is I never, in the beginning, I was like, I thought either they're super lying or they're super telling the truth, and actually the real thing isn't here yet, right? Have any of you thought that way? Like that it just, the way that they were responding to it didn't make sense for the way it was. And it was like, how could they do all of this unless they're doing this? Or they just can't tell the truth because they would panic the hell out of everybody if the real thing was far worse. Like we're talking about, you know, like what in Songbird, right? Like the CV-23 or whatever they called it. A lot of really crazy stuff there. Divine 1122, thank you. It's an amazing time to be alive. I guess there's you could go back and forth on that, talking about this. Rabbit 1111, Jenny, Texas, thank you. Fallen angels coming into our earth. Blue light, says Lisa K. Lisa K, I think you're on Twitter. I can send you the clip. Milk for $8, get a cow. Crazy, yeah. If I could fit one, right? Moxie71, defrustrated, stop it now or bend a knee to these beasts. Never. Defrustrated AF was grounding military flights with the jab. Yeah, I've heard about that. Carolina Pirate. Mercer1, thank you for gifting out Murphy badges over there on DLive. DLive, do you love? Gem, nice to have you back tonight. I saw that I think you had some stuff going on. Had some business to do during one of the shows, so thank you so much for popping back in. Timber Homestead, able-bodied, just a shout out. Hope you're good wherever you are if you're watching the replay. And then Stone Fanatic, Renegade PD. Of course, we've got one Brad A. Thank you. And then Texas Route 49 again. Thank you for your massive support tonight. So as far as this goes, I think people need to really wake up and pay attention to everything that's about to happen. I'm going to make a prediction right now based on what I know from the people I have talked to that are DOD employees, talking to some of the military members in our group, talking to some of the military wives in our group. I believe that they are preparing for something way bigger than what we have now. So specifically, have yourself mentally and physically prepared for anything in the near future. And I mean, this winter specifically, the next 3 months should be a very critical time for everybody. If not, in the next year before Christmas of next year. And that's not to put any fear in anybody. It's just watching what the governments are preparing for. The world governments are preparing for something. I think that it's quite, ignorant if you don't see that. Dex, would you have to kind of be completely hitting snooze button to miss all of these things?
Yeah, or just completely
or being positive.
Out of touch,
Well, you
whether you're brainwashed into something else or you're just heads down in like a video game for the rest of your life. I don't know. It seems this is almost like you can't miss this no matter who you are, right?
Yeah, I don't really know. Again, it's going to be a crazy thing. Now, hold on. It says, Denise Leslie, why is no one showing T-Man's Jesuit background? Much love. Because we're not talking about T-Man at all. I mean, T-Man's not even the president anymore. So, yeah. Whether he is or not, I guess it's kind of off topic. We've covered things, and as they pop up. If he does have that background, then he has that background. Again, that's not kind of my style as far as what I talk about. But I bet all of them do. I bet all of the elites and things do. Again, there's probably better channels that focus on that a lot more and know a lot more about that. But yeah, but he's not going to be relevant for at least a couple more years, I think, unless something happens crazy. So, if so, one thing I would think of is, all of them have different crazy backgrounds. All of them are for the bankers. I don't think that there's a win-win for anybody, no matter what we get. It's all one big circus. I guess
let's not face it. Anybody in that kind of position at any point who has had and created any level of wealth has probably 6 ways to Sunday to connect them to just about anything you want.
Yep. Every person throughout history has almost all the leaders and people that have been in charge have been, look at all the presidents that have been 33rd degree Masons. I was just talking to my good friend Dave about the Masons and things. And it's crazy how many of the presidents have been full blown 33 degree Masons. And to be a 33 degree Mason, there's so much, like, they have to memorize these things. We were talking about how they have passed things down without writing them down. So they have the next generation memorize these things. And a big part of being one all throughout this is that you have to memorize whole, sections of things. And we're talking about, 40 pages and you have to memorize the whole thing. And it's these weird, like, the ones I've heard sound like incantations or prayers almost. And then I've heard at the 33rd degree, they have you renounce religion. But then I've talked to people that say they had Masons in the family and that it's not demonic at the lower levels, and that they never heard any evidence of it being demonic at the higher levels, but they don't know because they were never in it, right? Or they were never at that level. There's no way to really tell what they do at the 33 degree because there's never been, I think it's crazy that there's never been any huge leaks, or especially since cell phones, that there haven't been videos. That kind of should say something, right? That it's so scary that people are afraid to leak that video. If you leak that video, they'll know it's you and you're gone, right? Or maybe you're gone, I don't know. But think about this, it's been around since the Dark Ages, so they've been passing these things on verbally for all of this time. That's insane. If people don't believe that there are secret societies out there, then that's just a lack of research, period. But thank you again, Denise Leslie, for your support again. He's also got other relatives and stuff. And he took bailouts from, the Roths, blah, 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 and all that. And I think that everybody's connected in some way in the political world, no matter if they're politicians or not. Anybody over that $1 billion level, usually they have some sort of connections. Dustin Layton, my wife and I separated tonight. Pray for me. Dustin, one thing I would say is when you do get in a separation of any kind, take a deep breath and take things one step at a time. Don't do anything stupid. And if you are a man, that's, just don't think with emotion and try to step back and try to take everything and think about all of your actions for the next 24 hours and make sure that you don't do anything that you shouldn't do. No, thank you for super chatting. No response, please. No. No says no response, please. Okay, well, I just won't respond. No. All right, and then Dex, do you want to talk about extremists pushing violence against Congress, school, and health officials? That's at least what the DHS bulletin says.
Yep. So we've talked about a similar bulletin, and sounds like they're renewing the one from, I want to say it was back in August. So this is expected, I think, to come out today. I won't say all the buzzwords in there, but we know this. But the thing is, just know it's being reissued and updated, and a lot of the language is still the same, but they definitely have updated it and continue to push this as what the main threats are that we need to be worried about, or what that's worth.
Well, let's see. You guys know what I mean. If you can't see it, then you're not awake. All right, Dex, do you want to talk about, of course, we've got a lot of stuff. By the way, I've been watching the Kyle trial, and I have to...
What wasn't today just incredible?
Okay, so I almost worry. So a lot of people are saying that the defense is doing all these mistakes. They're putting stuff in that they're adding in things. They're purposely going against rulings. It seems like the prosecutor and the judge are having like arguments all the time. A lot of people are annoyed by the judge. I almost thought, man, the judge is they're gonna like do a mistrial or a retrial. They're gonna say that the judge is too emotional because the judge keeps like screaming and yelling, and then Ilea said like he screams and then goes quiet, calm, and then screams again. He's kind of like one of those get off my lawn kind of guys, but that might actually hurt Kyle as far as defense goes.
No, I don't think so. And here's my take on it. The whole notion of a mistrial, there's one side that says maybe the prosecutor is doing this to cause it intentionally. Well, if he's doing that and it's already been put in motion by the defense that they think he's doing that, they would demand a mistrial with prejudice. And what that means is he would be prejudged as part of that mistrial. In other words, it's thrown out and you can't double jeopardy go after him again. So therefore he would be not found innocent, but not found guilty, but could never be tried again. Does that make sense? Yeah. So the prosecution, on one hand, may know, you could say, well, maybe they know they've just pretty much lost and they don't want it on their head. So they would rather it be on the judge's head by having him make that decision. Because if he makes that decision, then it's the judge who made that decision. I think the judge doesn't want to make that decision. He wants to see the trial all the way through, making sure, he can get as best as possible a fair hearing, given all the circumstances and all the shenanigans that are going on. And I mean, some of the stuff that was happening today was just, crazy. People have never seen a prosecutor do some of the things they've done before, at least in a high profile trial like this. So today was definitely the day to watch.
Well, because
there's a lot of highlights.
Once he goes out and puts that out there, they can't take that back. That was in front of the jury. So
no. The jury had left. So anytime that stuff happens, they remove the jury immediately. He asked them to leave, and then when he started,
but it was after he said it. It was after he added it in. So
what are you talking about?
The damage is done. He didn't remove them before. He said you should have asked for us to add that in.
Right.
He removed the jury after he said it.
Yeah, but to be fair, when he added it in, he went to ask a question about one specific thing, and he basically got a line of it out. He didn't get to the point of all the details that the jury would have needed to know, but it was enough that the judge said, hey, you're doing something that's illegal. You should not be doing that. So that he immediately sent the jury out and then basically handed him a new one without the jury present. So it was pretty intense.
Yeah.
And then some of the crazies, guys, if you don't want to watch it, just come look at all the clips. If you go to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, scroll down to web only content. I tried to get a collection of a lot of the highlights, maybe not all of the details, but a lot of the crazy details. You can watch some of those segments there from various different tweets that are out there that have captured it and put their own commentary on it as well. If you do want to watch it, go back and watch it. I would highly recommend somebody like PBS. Not that I'm a fan of them on YouTube, but why I say that is their footage was not altered. Whereas if you watch somebody like Court TV, they were censoring everything. So you would get these spaces of dead air and you didn't know what was going on. And it's because they didn't want an F-bomb dropped on the air. So they basically block out, 10, 15 seconds, and you sort of can't really follow the context that way. So, but if you want to continue watching or you want to go back and watch it, there is all the detail, the entire trial is online, and it'll probably go all the way till Tuesday. But we do have some highlights on marfooglenews.com. So head over there.
The best though.
Click on the thumbnail for the show. Yeah.
No, sorry. The best though is Kyle, prosecutor, you decided you needed to run because of the fire? Kyle says, yes. And the prosecutor goes, why? What was so urgent? Kyle, it was a fire. It's like,
or how about this one? This one is great. All he had was a hand bang on him. Why would you think he's a threat? You have a 15. Can you help me understand that? Kyle, yeah, he was advancing at me with a bang in his hand. like it's supposed to be okay for someone to advance at you with, a loaded weapon. That's
because it's physically smaller. It's like, okay, the thing that comes out of that is the same. And if you just press it once on both of them, one trigger can be the end of your life. One pull is done for both. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter the size. Yes, the AR can do it faster or, more people and probably a little bit more powerful, but hey, at that range, bang, bang, whatever. So there's a very fiery debate about, both sides. A lot of people are watching this on TV. So everybody is kind of talking about this like it's It's a circus. I mean, it's literally a circus. They're purposely somebody said that this prosecutor before has previous judge said that he's done it in his courtroom as well, where he snuck things in on purpose, and then once that jury hears that, it doesn't go away. You can say, oh, it's stricken from the record, but the jury still, that's still going to make them decide something in their head. The fact that they can't call them the victims, they have to call them, rioters, looters, or whatever. It's like, this thing, I've never seen anything like this. It's wild. And the more that I've watched it too, it's like, I actually did think, I'm like, the judge is screaming and yelling and but I do understand that judge has 40 years, whatever else on under his belt. And he's gone through so many of these higher profile cases. That judge has done a lot of these crazy murder cases. And some would say that he's actually one of the most experienced in that kind of specific kind of trial.
And he has experience with this prosecutor, and this prosecutor is not like a young kid. This is not somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. He has tons of experience, and to do things like, trample over his right to remain silent, and which is a constitutional right, and to literally, trample all over that in his prosecution of it and his questioning of him, it was just like, that's like rookie 101. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's just, it was pretty interesting to see and hear, especially if you don't know the law and don't understand how lawyers and stuff work, but you sort of understand your fundamental rights and why a lot of these laws and a lot of these procedures are in place to help protect you. And it's a really fascinating case to watch. Draw your own conclusions, but don't draw them unless you have looked at all the evidence, is what I would say.
Yeah, you really need to see what was put in. After they announced that they had these drones watching the whole event. I mean, like, they brought in evidence that actually backed up what Kyle was saying. It's just nuts. What would you do in his position? Would you have done the same thing, or would you not be there at all? Crazy stuff. AF was grounding flights again. Thank you, Defrustrated. Calizzi, thank you for the diamond. Carolina Pirate, thank you. Truth Seeker, Renegade PD, Penny Lane. Texas Rob 49 says, I'm home, baby, with a Ninja Guinea. Hey, thank you, and I guarantee you are the number one supporter for tonight. Thank you to Gone Girl 777, Susan Donahue. Thank you, everybody. Veteran Steve, EOD Vet. Thank you guys. All you guys are wonderful people. Thank you for going above and beyond. Dex, thank you for your service tonight. I appreciate you.
Much love, brother. Great show.
And again, like Dex was saying, go to the thumbnail. I did interrupt him, and I apologize about that, Dex. Thank you. And very easy to go to. Make sure to go check that out. Watch this, okay? This is a big deal. Watch. Just watch. So for this, Israel War Games, okay? Tell your friends on our website. They can search that in the search bar, and they'll find tonight's episode. All right. Thank you. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout out. It's a shoutro. And it's 80s night. By the way, thank you to Texas Rob 49. I appreciate each and every one of you that has popped in tonight. Thank you so much for Jane from Tennessee. Says, God bless. Thank you. And much love to everybody over on D Live. Thank you, and thank you. Jammer, I didn't see you tonight, but thank you for being a great mod. Thank you, Chance Paladin. Thank you, everybody over there. And, of course, thank you, and thank you, Delvine1122 and Lisa K23. Thank you for being number 2 and 3 on the list tonight. Making a fresh one.